Everyone, I got an exciting unboxing for you today, the newly released Xbox Series X. Now, there are two new Xbox consoles on the market, came out yesterday. The Xbox Series X, which is a powerful console equivalent to an entry-level gaming PC, and the Xbox Series S, which is a small step up from the now previous generation of Xbox One variations. The Xbox One S also doesn't have a disk drive, it's for digital media only. The Series X console will run you about $500. A bit steep, I know. There are bundle deals and lease options that can skyrocket the console price closer to $900, but at least with those bundles you get a couple games, extra controller, and or the Xbox Game Pass subscription. That's better than paying $900 to some scumbag scalper for the core console alone on eBay. The Series S can save you a couple $100, but the weaker internals was a deal breaker for me. I'm also not such an avid gamer that paying $35 a month for a gaming subscription service would be worth it to me. Given the size of the box, the console itself was smaller than I imagined, but has a nice minimalist design. I don't really care about overly produced package for something that I'm going to put in a media cabinet, and I definitely don't want a piano finish like on the fingerprint-ridden PS3. The optimal designation for the console is standing straight up on its built-in stand, but you can lay it horizontal to suit your setup. The console has ports for storage expansion, a few USB, and one of those USBs is located on the front of the consoles for wired controllers. It has an Ethernet port and, of course, HDMI. The really cool thing here is that the HDMI is 2.1, which is pretty new at the time of this recording. I even had my own quality HDMI cord set aside and waiting for the console, since in the past these consoles, especially the Nintendo consoles, are packaged with complete garbage USB cords. But the one included with this console is pretty well made and is HDMI 2.1, so after trying my own cord, I went with this one, and it was much, much better. The included wireless controller miraculously came with name brand batteries, not these junk batteries you've never heard of before and die in about 15 minutes. It's mostly the same as the last generation controller with some small improvements. The buttons feel more responsive, the triggers have a lot more spring in them, and the thumbsticks are grippier. There's also a grip built into the back of the handles for comfort in holding. The biggest improvement is the D-pad. It actually feels like 4 distinct buttons and not some platform you mash hoping you get it in the right approximated direction. The initial setup of the console took no time at all. Power, HDMI, turn it on. You go through a couple simple menus. The inevitable day one update downloaded pretty quick. It was maybe 10 minutes. There was a controller update after the console update that somehow took longer than the console update, and I really don't even know what it was for. Being a stickler for quality, my friend and I went into the options next. Uncompressed surround sound that is a huge improvement over the past generation. The sound coming out of the Xbox One really sucked. Without true next-gen games available at the moment, the improvements in sound may be my favorite thing. I say maybe because this also supports true 4K HDR. That's real 4K, not the weird kinda half processing upconvert from the last generation. I mean, even the term upconvert is half a myth. That's a whole other rabbit hole we don't need to get down into this video. But there's a detail screen for the 4K display options when you're up and running. When I first got to this screen, as you can see in the video, I noticed the console wasn't doing nearly what it should have been for my setup, and it kind of made me mad. I wanted to make sure I was getting the best out of my projector, out of my receiver, and out of my new next-gen console, so it sent me and my friend on a nearly 2-hour settings tweaking rabbit hole. Not all in the Xbox Series X, don't worry, you're not going to get this thing, plug it into your TV, and be lost in settings for hours and hours. The important thing is the end result was pretty impressive. The console itself, in testing the streaming channels on Netflix, Amazon Prime, even YouTube, have actual true 4K HDR content, or UHD in some cases. Some of those streaming services looked better than my 4K Fire Stick, some not quite as nice, but not this like night and day difference. The 4K Blu-ray player on it is leagues above the one on the Xbox One X. That one is kind of like, yeah, it'll play the 4K thing, but it's really not any better than 1080p. It's still not as nice as my standalone Sony 4K Blu-ray player, so if you're really into quality, you probably already know by now, buy a separate piece to do each individual thing. I love the changes. I'm really happy with it. The light and dark transitions are a lot nicer with the HDR. You can see details in the shadows that might have been muddy otherwise, or muddy in 1080p only. I understand for a lot of people the $500 price tag can be a bit steep, and I was even hesitant on, is it worth spending the money? I'm happy with my 1080p TV in my living room and my Xbox One, but I'm glad I went for it. I'm going to use this piece of tech until the Xbox One Series X2 or whatever convoluted name they come up with next comes out. So I'm all in on it. I really like it. I'm pretty excited for a true next gen game. I might pick up the new Assassin's Creed, even though it's kind of developed with a foot in each world. So it's never the optimal results, but we'll see going forward. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe to our channel for more. Also, be sure to listen to So Wizard Podcast every single week wherever you get your podcasts. So Wizard Podcast can be found on Patreon, where for as little as $1 a month, you get multiple bonus shows. SoWizardPodcast.com is your source for reviews, recommendations, merchandise, and more. Thanks.